Hi, my name is Josh Bretl, and I grew up here in this Brynhaven neighborhood of Elmhurst, and behind me is Edison School, where I went to grade school. Just over here was my kindergarten classroom, where I had the wonderful Trilby Porter as a kindergarten teacher. And Mrs. Porter has somewhat of her own mythology here in town. She had my uncle, who's 20 years my senior, as well as many kids past me. And any kid who's had Mrs. Porter has all sorts of stories and memories. And it's funny, even into my 40s, the Mrs. Porter stories, memories still come back. And one of my favorite memories of Mrs. Porter was when she had us make Dinosaur Stew. And she had us convinced that some parent found a dinosaur bone in their backyard that had meat on it, and she actually made a stew in the classroom for us all. It wasn't until years later we found out that a parent voluntarily went to a butcher shop, got a big bone, and brought it all down. But as a child, I'm going to guess that there are many kids in Elmhurst who remember the dinosaur stew that they had in Mrs. Porter's class. Another wonderful memory of Mrs. Porter is her Kindergarten Sings program. Mrs. Porter was a wonderful musician, and her and her husband would put on a musical program at the end of the year that they would change the words to many popular songs that there are still kids that can quote the lyrics to the songs that they had in Mrs. Porter's kindergarten class.
Community Bank of Elmhurst. We know Elmhurst. We are Elmhurst.